Let's look at some example of top-down and bottom-up approach for estimating project time and costs. So here you are looking at 5 different top-down approach for estimating project time and costs. The first one called consensus. It's fairly straightforward. You invite the different experts who have done a similar project over and have them discuss and try to reach a consensus in terms of how much time and budget they would need in order to complete the project based on their past experience. The second one is called ratio method or apportion method. I'm going to give you an example. And then the fourth one is called functional point method. I'm going to give you another example too. And you can study the learning curve yourself in the textbooks. So this is called apportion method, which is you already have your breakdown structure from your previous assignments. So you already know what kind of tasks that have to be completed at each level. What you need to do is you look at each level and then try to discuss among your team and to think about the percentage of time you'll be needing to complete each work breakdown structure task at each level. So for instance, in this example, you have 20% of your time the team plans to spend in designing the projects. Another 30% on program, 40% testing, 5% document, and the other 5% on producing CD. You add them up, all the percentage, they'll give you 100%. And the 100% represent your total project time and costs. So what you need to do is, since you already have your total project cost approved by your project sponsor, what you need to do is use the number to multiply by the percentage of the effort or time you need to be spending on each work breakdown structure task at each level. And so here, if you multiply $500,000 of your total project cost by 20%, they'll give you an idea about that you will need $100,000 to complete the design work breakdown structure task at level 1. And at level 2, you have another 2 small design tasks that was divided at level 2. And since 10% each for each design task, so for each design task, you will need $50,000 each. So try to replicate this example to other work breakdown structure tasks at level 1 and continue to trickle down. And they're going to give you an estimate for each work package. This is another top-down approach called functional points count. The idea is you want to boil down your specific, particularly software project into called functional points, because you can do a better job at estimating the time and budget you need to hire a programmer to deliver each functional point. So each functional point will be the lowest denominator you can use to improve your cost and budget estimations. So for instance, if you can do so by looking at a large piece of software project and then decompose it into more like functional points, similar to your work package. And then you can ask the market, experts in the market about how much time you'll be taking to complete each functional point, like a piece of software. So say 1 hour. And how much you'll be costing to hire one programmer to write 1 hour, write one functional point, say $60. So for each functional point, you will need 1 hour and $60 of budget to hire any programmer to do the jobs. So that would be the goal for you to find the functional points for any software projects. So let's look at this table. The table basically, I try to have 3 levels of complexity to write a piece of software for the software input, output, inquiry, file, and interfaces. If it's a low complexity, you can multiply by 2 for the input, but you have to multiply by 5 for the interface. Okay, for high complexity, the number will be different, but it's up to your team to decide what kind of the weight you want to give for delivering different pieces of software elements, and you try to add them up. So here is the example. So for this particular software project, to write a piece of software to admit patient and bill patient, here they think they would need 15 input, 5 output, 10 inquiry, 30 files, and 20 interfaces. And they have been graded at different complexity level with different weight numbers. So this will be discussed among your team too. And this will be based on user requirements. And you multiply them by each others. So for instance, for input, you will need 15 functional points, and then by the complexity will be weight number 2. So you multiply 2, that will give you 30 points. And so you do the same logics, they will give you 660 points in total after you add them all up. So we talk about for each functional point, you will need 1 hour. So to give you an idea, you will need 660 hours to deliver this piece of software. And then if it's a $60 per hour to complete each functional point, then you can multiply 660 by $60 an hour, and they are going to give you roughly about $40,000 of the budget you need to complete these projects. Let's look at the bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach is very easy, which is you already learned how to do all the work breakdown structure tests. So what you have to do is just have a list of them, and then hire a different expert to give you a low estimate and high estimate, right? And then you then will be able to also hire another expert to give you an average estimate. So what you need to do is using the average estimate, to give you an idea about how much time you need to complete each work breakdown structure task. And when you add them up, then that will give you an idea about the total number of days you need to complete the entire projects. So your total estimate for entire project is based on the average estimate of each work breakdown structure task. And the average estimate comes from the estimate of different experts you invite over to discuss. So here's one way to improve your project estimate. One is to look at your project life cycle, and then you start with some macro, and then by every time you come closer to each phases of your projects, and you change it to more like detailed estimate, which will be more bottom-up approach. So what this table try to suggest you is for a longer time horizon, use the top-down approach. But whenever you get closer to each phases, and change it from the micro to micro approach. Change it from the apportion method to the bottom-up approach, which will be more like work breakdown structure estimate. And by doing so, your estimate accuracy could be much improved. So here give you an idea about the purpose of using either top-down or bottom-up estimate, but in terms of accuracy, bottom-up estimate based on work breakdown structure task is always a preferred approach. But an estimate is not a fix. So what happens is, during your estimate, you have to keep refining your estimate because things could go wrong. Whether, for instance, you are planning to run a concert and then there's a weather condition, the concert has to be canceled. So you have to find another place at another time. It will be costing you extra time. So what you have to do is just be alert during your project execution and keep adjusting your estimate until that you can get a better job at understanding your project time and resource and budget you need to do your projects. So they conclude this chapter, and it's important as a good project managers, you really have to have a good idea about how much time and resource you need, not only for the entire project, but also to each work breakdown structure package at the lowest level. The more detail you can manage it at each individual work package, the better estimate you could have for the entire projects. So enjoy estimating your project cost and time for these chapters.